I'm going to be speaking about the concept of jihad and how the concept of jihad and the duty of jihad and the sacred obligation of jihad can easily be misappropriated and distorted and hijacked into terrorism. And any religious dogma, any religious tenet, if it's not handled with honesty, it's as old as humanity itself. It could easily be misappropriated and distorted to serve various ends, and very pernicious and very heinous ends. So I'm going to make my speech rather short, and I will not speak in detail. But then I'll give you time to ask me a question. And you don't have, when you call in, you don't have to just ask questions on the topic. You can ask questions on anything on your mind that is appropriate for this show. That would be appropriate for this show. Okay. So in Islam, the concept of jihad, which is to wage war, fi sabilillah, in the path of God, for the pleasure of God. So God would be happy in certain occasions if you have to use violence. That could be very easily distorted, and it is always distorted. And people are manipulated into engaging in jihad, and that comes out as acts of terrorism, very terrible, very horrible acts that you see around the world. This is the book of Jihad. Oh my, please allow me. So, okay, okay. This is Al-Jihad fil Islam, Ta'alif al-Muhammad Mutawalli al-Sha'rawi. And he is a very famous scholar in the non-Shia tradition. This book was published when? 1998 in Al-Qahira. So, and what he discusses in this book is nothing out of ordinary. You would find this very common, these materials, in the books of non-Shia faith with respect to the rules of jihad. So, amma shurutu wujub al-jihad. The obligation of jihad upon whom? Who is obligated? Who is required by the tenets of Islam, by canons of Islam, to engage in jihad? There are 6. Muslim. So if you're Muslim, okay, first you have to be a Muslim. If you're a Muslim and then bulugh, you have to have reached the age of puberty, wal hurriya, and you cannot be a slave. So that's all of the Muslims, right? 2 billion Muslim, 2.2 billion Muslim, or dhukuriya, and men. So that takes out the woman. So if there are 2.2 billion Muslims, half of that, 1.1 billion Muslims. So that these conditions exist in him. وَالْإِسْتِطَاعَ بِالْبَدَنِ وَالْمَالِ. And then you should be able to wage war. Someone who can. So if you're young, or even if you're not young, as long as you can fight, your body is able to engage in warfare. And mal. And then you should have enough money, enough capital, but that's not very required, even if you're poor still. Jihad could be obligatory. So that basically 1.1 billion Muslims. Okay, there are some of them are old, some of them are crippled. They cannot engage in jihad. But there are not too many crippled people in the Muslim world. There are not too many. Muslim nations are generally very young people, young populations they have. So about 1,900,000,000 Muslims, 800 million Muslims, they are all an army, big army of jihad. So jihad is wajib on them, obligatory on them. Jihad against whom? You do. Who do you engage jihad in? Kuffar, all the different nations who are kafir and infidels, not Muslim. So they could be Christian, they could be Jews, they could be Hindus, they could be communists, and of course, any people who are declared infidels, even if they identify themselves as Muslims, such as Shia, right? Wal bughat, any person who really disagrees with you or disagrees with your leader, he would be a baghi, he would be a rebel. And of course, even if he's a Muslim, you wage jihad against him. Wal muharibun. Oh, and Anybody who fights against you, wages a war against you. So with respect to the kuffar, infidels, you can start a jihad. It doesn't mean that they have to attack first and you're engaging in jihad just to defend yourself. No, you're obligated to be always engaged in jihad against them. وَأَمَّا الْكُفَّارُ فَجَمِيعُ أَصْنَافِهِمْ. Kuffar, all of them, all types of kuffar, as long as they are not paying tax to Muslims, as long as they're not zimmi, they don't accept the superiority of Muslims, and they pay ransom, they pay tax every year, every month, or whatever the pact is with them, then you have to fight, or they become Muslims. You have to engage in war. So that is the rule of jihad. And this is not a controversial matter. This is a matter of consensus. And jihad requires what? You need an imam. You need a leader. And if you're 3 people, you can make one of you your imam. Your imam does not have to be somebody very learned. No, somebody very of unique characteristics. Any 3, 4, 5, 10 people can get together and make one of themselves an imam, and then they start jihad. They will be the group leader, party leader, and then declare jihad. So this is the exact formula for perpetual violence, for an unending wave of strife and terrorism and religious violence perpetrated against all nations, even Muslims themselves. Okay. Now, this is the generally accepted version of jihad in the Muslim world. So if Muslims, at the moment they become religious, if Muslims are secular, that's very good. Muslim, as long as they're not practicing Islam, that's a blessing. The moment they become religious, that means they will go to these texts. Then one of the most important, one of the critical tenets of Islam is jihad, just as prayers is wajib, obligatory. Fasting in the month of Ramadan is obligatory. Likewise, jihad, waging war, is obligatory. If you don't do it, you've committed a sin and you'll end up in hell. So you have to always be conducting jihad, always. So what would be the result? Right? The result would be barbarism all over the world, because there Muslims are so many, hundreds of millions of people. Now, that's in contrast to Shia faith. And Shia faith and Shia Islam, jihad is an obligation. Nonetheless, you cannot just wage a jihad unless there's a divinely appointed leader, like Jesus Christ, like Imam Jafar and Sadiq alayhi salam, Imam Ali alayhi salam. So jihad can only be conducted under his command, under his leadership. And I'm going to show, so until the day, the second advent of Jesus would be contemporaneous to the coming of the Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, there is no jihad in Shia Islam. This book is Wasailu Shia, volume number 15, Chab Mu'assasatu Alil Bayti alayhim salam. Here in the book of jihad, amongst the conditions of jihad, the requirements of the jihad to be valid, jihad to be conducted, the holy war could be conducted. This is a requirement. Otherwise, there is no holy war. Is that you have to have a ma'soom imam, infallible imam, an imam who does not abuse anyone. The leader should be such that he does not even abuse animals. He does not even abuse bugs, ants, leave alone human beings or kafirs or Muslims. No, he does not abuse anyone, and he's overseeing, and he's making sure that this violence that's carried out in the name of God is directed only against those people, that it's necessary, it's mandatory. There's no other way except to defeat those people and overcome those people. So let's consider the first hadith. Here, this hadith is from Imam Jafar al-Sadiq alayhi salam. قلت له إني رأيت في المنام إني قلت لك إن القتال مع غير الإمام المفترض طاعته حرام. This person says to Imam Jafar al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, I saw in my dream, a very strange dream. I saw you in my dream. In my dream, I was having a conversation with you. And I am the one who initiated the conversation, and I told you, I said to you, Ya Imam, jihad not under the command of a ma'soom imam, infallible imam, divinely appointed, divinely anointed imam, is haram, is forbidden, is prohibited. مثل الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير. It's prohibited just like eating a dead animal. It's prohibited just like drinking blood is prohibited, and the flesh of pigs, pork, is eating prohibited. So I saw in my dream, I said, Ya Imam, jihad not under the command, not under the leadership, not under the banner of an imam who is divinely appointed. It's forbidden just like eating dead animals. Eating dead animals is forbidden just like drinking blood is forbidden, and just like eating pork is prohibited. And in my dream, you replied, you said, Na'am, huwa kadhalik. You told me, yes, this is so. فقال أبو عبد الله عليه السلام. So this person narrated his dream that he had seen to the Imam عليه السلام. And dreams are very strange, right? Dreams could be very powerful, especially in your dreams if you see the holy Imams عليهم السلام. Some perhaps has happened to you many a time in our lives, or if you read in history stories of people, they have seen strange dreams, and those dreams have come true, right? In the secular world, in the United States, Abraham Lincoln is very famous that he was assassinated. Right before his assassination, perhaps he put it in his diary, I forgot now, or he told his friends that I saw myself that I'm lying somewhere and I'm shot in my head. And that's exactly what happened. A few days later, he was shot in Ford's Theater in Washington, and they took him to a house nearby, and he was lying in the bed and he was unconscious until he died. So dreams could be very, very powerful, and human soul is very strange, and the world is very strange. It's not just the things we see. At any rate, this person, he narrated his dream that I saw this in my dream. I had this conversation with you. Ya Imam, in my dream, the Imam alayhi salatu wasalam said to him, replied to him, huwa kadhalika, huwa kadhalik. So he replied twice, emphasis. For clarity and for emphasis and for hyperbolic purposes, the Imam alayhi salatu wasalam says, yes, it's indeed so. Yes, it's indeed so. What's indeed so? Jihad, not under the leadership, not under the banner of a ma'soom, infallible imam, is prohibited, like eating dead animals, like drinking blood, like eating pork. So those are the most abominable things you can imagine for a Muslim, right? For any person. Eating what? Eating dead animal, or drinking blood, and eating pork. Of course, Muslims detest even the idea, even the notion of eating pork. So it's so abominable, it's so bad, it's so horrible to engage in jihad, not under the command of the Holy Imam alayhi salam. Consider this other hadith. Abdul Malik ibn Amr says, Al-Imam Jafar al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam said to me, Ya Abdul Malik, Ya Abd al-Malik, Mali la araka takhruju ila hadi al-mawadi' allati yakhruju ilayha ahlu biladik. Abdul Malik, I see that a lot of people from your region, they go out for jihad. They go out for engaging in wars. So, but I see you don't go. What's the reason? Like other people from your region, young man, older man, they go join the army. They go to engage in jihad. They go to various territories, to frontiers of the Islamic lands to fight infidels. Why don't you go? I said, wa'ain? I said, which areas do you mean? Where people go? I said, the Imam alayhi salam said, Jeddah. Jeddah is a port in Saudi Arabia, right, in Hijaz. So at that time, perhaps this was a port at the time of Jafar al-Sadiq alayhi salam, from which people disembarked on ships to go to Africa to engage in jihad. Wa-Abbadan. Abbadan is an area in Persia. Wal-Masisa. Wal-Masisa. At that time, Masisa was part of the Roman Empire, East Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire. Today, Al-Masisa is situated in Turkey, modern-day Turkey. And of course, at that time, there was no Turkey, right? at the time of the Imams alayhimus salam, the modern day Turkey, Asia Minor, this was Eastern Roman Empire. There were Greek-speaking people at the time here. Wal-Masisa, Wa-Qazvin. Qazvin is another town. It was a vast region at the time of the Imam alayhi salatu wasalam that's in Iran today. So why don't you go? These various places, people go there to engage in war. They bring back bounties. They bring back captured women, slave women with them. And they're happy. They think they have engaged in jihad. I said, no. انتظارا لأمركم والاقتداء بكم. He said that I'm not going to go to be part of these wars, these holy wars, because I'm a Shia. I'm your follower. I'm waiting for your command. انتظارا لأمركم. I'm waiting for your rule. That when you become the ruler, when you become the commander, when you become the leader of the Muslim world, or the holy imam from your household, from your progeny, then والاقتداء بكم. You are the leader, and our devotion, our following is dedicated to you. فقال أي والله لو كان خيرا ما سبقونا إليه. He said, نعم. Imam alayhi salam said, indeed it's so. Indeed it's so. All these wars that are being waged at this time, at the frontiers of Muslim lands, they are all evil wars. They're all evil wars. If they were good, we would be the first to join them. We would be at its vanguards. We would be the ones leading them. So just because these despicable, these pernicious, these low characters, degenerate people who are leading these wars, and they are abusing people in the name of Islam, committing massacres and looting people and plundering towns and tribes and doing all sorts of despicable things. Yeah. So this is very evil thing that they are doing. If it was something good, we would be at its vanguards. قلت له فإن الزيدية يقولون ليس بيننا وبين جعفر خلاف إلا أنه لا يرى الجهاد. Zaydis, who were a type of Shia, but they were not really Shia, because Zaydis believed in the imamate of Abu Bakr and Umar, because Zaydi imams, obviously all of them were from the progeny of Imam Ali alayhi salam and Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayha. Nonetheless, they had greed for imamat, they had greed for rulership, they had greed for leadership. And because of their greed and because of their avarice, what happened is that they denounced the imamat of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam. And because the majority of Muslims at the time revered Abu Bakr and Umar as the rightful caliphs of the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and these leaders, because they needed popular support, they compromised on Abu Bakr and Umar. So they accepted, although they knew Zaydi imams, such as Zayd, and after Zayd, the other imams, they knew that what position of Abu Bakr and Umar were. Nonetheless, they started praising them in order to just attract the common Muslims to have maximum followership. Because if they insisted on Abu Bakr and Umar being negative characters, then their followership would drop significantly. So Zaydiyya was type of Shia, but what type of Shia? Compromising on imamah and then having their own illegitimate imams, and then following the Umari hadith on all things, right? Because they didn't have their own hadith. So in other words, their fiqh, the Zaydi fiqh today is complete Umari fiqh. Their hadith is vastly Umari hadith. So I said to him, the Zaydiyya who believe in jihad, they believe in holy war, that any person, but the only difference between jihad of Umaris and Zaydis is the Zaydis believe the leader should be a Sayyid. The leader should be from the progeny of Fatima al-Zahra salamullah. Other than that, there is no difference in the concept of jihad between Zaydis and the Umaris. So they have said that we have no dispute with Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam, except that he does not believe in jihad. He has abandoned jihad. He considers jihad haram, forbidden. So he doesn't believe in armed struggle. He does not believe that one should make an uprising against oppressive rulers and fight the kuffar, fight the infidels. فقال الإمام عليه السلام, he replied, Imam Jafar al-Sadiq alayhi salam replied, أنا لا أراه. What are they saying? I don't believe in jihad. No, I believe in jihad. But jihad has its condition and requirements. I don't believe in the distorted form of jihad. بلى والله إني لا أراه ولكني أكره أن أدع علمي إلى جهلهم. Of course, I swear by God, I take an oath by Allah that I believe in jihad. But I am not going to abandon the path of righteousness, abandon the true jihad, the true notion, the true laws of jihad that's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and adopt their distorted rules of jihad. Okay. Abbad al-Basri was a person at the time of Al-Imam Zainul Abidin, Sayyid al-Sajidin alayhi salam. He saw Al-Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam is engaging in Hajj. So either he is journeying towards Mecca, but yes, of course, he's journeying towards Mecca. Abbad al-Basri met Al-Imam Ali ibn al-Husayn Zainul Abidin alayhi salam fi tariq Mecca. He met him on the road to Mecca. فقال له, he said to Al-Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, يا علي ibn al-Husayn تركت الجهاد وصعوبته وأقبلت على الحج ولينه. He said, Ya Ali ibn al-Husayn, you have abandoned jihad because it's so hard. There's so hardship, so much difficulties that you have to go to the frontier, you have to wage war, and you have to be tired, you get wounded, you might get killed. There's all sort of exhaustion and sacrifice involved with jihad. So you have abandoned jihad and its hardship, and you're trying to perform Hajj because it's soft, because it's easy, because it's lenient. So you have made your choice. You have chosen the easy way. You have abandoned a difficult path. إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ يَقُولُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the noble Quran. Then he recited a verse. Imam alayhi salatu was salam said, فَقَالَ لَهُ عَلِي ibn al-Husayn alayhi salam, أَتِمِّ الْآيَةِ. Imam alayhi salatu was salam said, continue. Recite the rest of the verse. Recite the rest of it. And he continued and recited the rest of the verse. So I'm going to, because in this page here, the full verse is not indicated, I'll take you to the Noble Quran to show you the full verses. So here's the Noble Quran. We are at Surah At-Tawbah. This is verse number 111. So the verse goes as follows. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الله اشترى من المؤمنين أنفسهم وأموالهم بأن لهم الجنة. Verily, Allah has made a purchase. Allah has bought. Allah has purchased from the believers their wealth, material wealth, and their souls, their lives. So mu'mineen have made a transaction with God, with the Lord. Mu'mineen have sold their wealth, given up their wealth, sacrificed it, given up their lives also to God, to Allah. بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. In exchange, what is the price? The price is God's paradise. Eternal bliss, eternal happiness in the hereafter. What a great transaction, right? You give up your belongings in this world and your life, you're going to die anyways. And in the hereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all your sins and you are taken straight to Jannah. Okay. Which are these mu'mineen who have made this transaction, who have given up their wealth and their souls, their lives in exchange for Jannah? These ones. يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. They wage war. They wage wars in the path of God, for the pleasure of God, per command of God. فَيَقْتُلُونَ وَيُقْتَلُونَ. So, they kill and they are killed. That's what happens in wars, right? You kill and you get killed. فَيَقْتُلُونَ وَيُقْتَلُونَ. وَعَدًا عَلَيْهِ حَقًّا فِي التَّوْرَاةِ وَالْإِنْجِيلِ وَالْقُرْآنِ. This is a pact, this is a promise that's binding God. This is a binding promise from God that's mentioned in the Torah, in Evangel, and the New Testament, and also in Quran. Okay. وَمَنْ أَوْفَى بِعَهْدِهِ مِنَ اللَّهِ. Allah made this promise that if you give up your wealth for me and take the risk of your lives for fighting in my path, perhaps you'll be killed, then I give you Jannah in the hereafter. Allah has made this promise. and made this promise in the Torah and the New Testament and the Quran. And who is more truthful to his word? Who is truer to his promise than Allah? So this is a promise that's ironclad. That this is a promise that's absolutely, there's no doubt in it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fulfill. That if you give up these things and you wage war in the path of God, and either you're killed or you kill the enemy, you go to paradise. So there's a promise indeed. فَاسْتَبْشِرُوا بِبَيْعِكُمُ الَّذِي بَايَعْتُمْ بِهِ. So rejoice, have the glad tidings, be happy that you've made this transaction, that you have sold your wealth and your lives to Allah. In exchange, you have purchased Jannah, eternal kingdom. Okay. وَذَلِكَ هُوَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ. And this is a great triumph, a great victory. So this person, Abbad al-Basri, he recited to Imam alayhi salam this hadith, and he was blaming and he was condemning the holy Imam alayhi salatu wasalam for not going to jihad. Who? Al-Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, right? And he's saying, you're going to Hajj. Hajj is easy. Jihad is difficult, requires sacrifice, requires to perhaps be killed, be wounded, all sort of sacrifices involved in jihad. It's very hard. So you have given up the hard thing for the easy thing. And he recited this verse. So Imam alayhi salam said, continue, read the rest. The rest is in the next page. At-ta'ibun. Who are these faithful? Who are these faithful? So they're not just any Muslim that he has made a pact with God, right? God has not made a pact with any Muslim, right? That who gives up his wealth and his life and he's waging war, right? Either he's killed or he kills the enemy, he goes to paradise. No, it's not just anyone. There are specific people, not just anyone. They have to have these characteristics. At-ta'ibun. العابدون الحامدون الصائحون الراكعون الساجدون الآمرون بالمعروف والناهون عن المنكر والحافظون لحدود الله وبشر المؤمنين. These people who have done pact to engage in jihad, they are not just any person. These are very specific people. At-ta'ibun. They are people who have renounced all sins, who have atoned for their all sins. So they don't never lie. They never cheat. They never abuse. They never take people's property they never hurt anyone that you should not hurt, right? These are these people. So the attributes of a holy warrior are very, very exalted. Holy warrior who's to be engaged in jihad in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him paradise. These are very difficult attributes. Most people do not have it, right? Al-abidun. These are fervent worshippers of Allah, sincere, solemn worshippers of God. They engage in ibadah. They engage in acts of worship. They devote their nights to worshiping Allah, chanting Allah's name and worshiping and just enjoying, just talking to God. Al-Hamidun. These are the people who say the glory of the Lord all the time. They remember who they are and what's their position with respect to the Creator. As-Sa'ihun. They always keep fast, always, not just in the month of Ramadan. The rest, Sa'ihun, yani As-Sa'imun. They always keep fast. Ar-Raki'un. They always bow before the Lord. They do not have arrogance. They do not have pride, humility. Ar-Raki'un, As-Sajidun. They prostrate before the Lord. They're always submissive to the rules of Allah, not to their greed or to their worldly temptations. Al-amiruna bil ma'ruf wa nahuna 'anil munkar. These are the people who teach others what good is. They teach other people what goodness is, and they teach other people what are bad things in life in order to abandon them. Okay? And then wal hafidhuna li hududillah. And these are people who know what are the rules of jihad, and what are the rules of God with regard to everything. And they always safeguard and observe and comply to those rules of God and to those boundaries that Allah has set. And those boundaries are very difficult to upkeep, right? The boundaries, amongst them is a dhulm. Amongst those boundaries that you cannot transpass is transgression. Boundary, one of the most severe forms of haram, prohibition in Islam, is to abuse anyone. So if you're engaging in jihad, you cannot abuse anyone. You cannot hurt anyone who you should not be hurting. So who can wage a jihad like that? You tell me, how can you engage in a jihad where you don't hurt people who are not supposed to be hurt? So at the time of the Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salatu, some people were just getting up from the villages, and these kings, medieval kings, Muslim kings, right? They were rallying people for jihad, for war. And their purpose was not really to teach people what good is and what bad is. The purpose was to go loot and plunder and conquer new territories, and especially bring those treasures. Each area has its own king. When you conquer an area, there's a lot of money and gold and silver and the treasures. You bring it back here. And then, of course, that area will be conquered. Now you levy taxes on those areas, and that generates income. And also bring in slaves. Bring in slaves. All young men, all young women, good women, beautiful women, take them back with you. So that basically jihad was an act of plunder. And these were carried out. And of course, the first and foremost thing that's prohibited in Islam is to abuse anyone. You cannot abuse a bug. You cannot abuse animals, let alone human beings. In the time of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam, he heard that there has been a raid, and the forces of Roman forces, they have taken a earring from the ear of a Christian woman. During the raid, a non-Muslim woman has been looted, and the enemy have taken their earrings. He became so upset, and if I recall correctly, he said, "This is such a tragic act. If one dies for this sorrow, for this grief, that a Christian woman has been abused, right? Her earring has been taken. If one dies in the sorrow, he's not to be blamed, because no one should be abused. No one's rights, no one's property should be violated." So Imam alayhi salatu wasalam said to Abbad al-Basri, recite the rest of the ayah. And Abbad recited. Then Imam alayhi salatu wasalam said, إذا رأينا هؤلاء الذين هذه صفتهم فالجهاد معهم أفضل من الحج. Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam said, when you see people engaging in jihad that have these qualities, have these attributes in this verse, then in that case, jihad is better than hajj. Jihad is better. Otherwise, there is no jihad. So our Imams alayhim salam lived in the times of jihad, right? All these fake jihads, all these holy wars that were not really holy. They were very unholy, dirty jihads, right? But our Imams alayhim salam were always against it, from Imam Ali alayhi salam all the way to Al-Imam Al-Askari alayhi salam. أبي جعفر الثاني عليه السلام في حديث طويل في شأن إنا أنزلناه، الإمام الجواد عليه السلام, the ninth Imam سلام الله عليه, says, ولا أعلم في هذا الزمان جهادا إلا الحج والعمرة والجوار. At this time, at my time, there is no jihad. Although this was an era of jihad, this was the era of Islamic expansion. Muslims armies were conquering new territories. Bani Abbas, they were attacking, they were making advances in the east, in India, in Central Asia, in the west, with Romans, and in Africa. All areas Muslims were advancing. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam said, there is no jihad except Hajj, going to Hajj, Umrah, acts of worship, dedicating yourself and your time to Allah. And Hajj and Umrah are so enjoyable, spiritually uplifting, if you've been there, right? So Al-Hajj wal-Umrah, ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. If you go there, it's such a spiritual journey, especially if you spend a little longer time. If you go to Medina, stay there 10 days, 15 days, and go to Mecca, spend there a couple of weeks. go often there to pray, recite Quran, do tawaf. It's spiritual. This is not comparable to anything worldly. We cannot compare it to anything that I cannot say it's like this or like that. All I can say is a spiritual journey that's very, very enlightening, very illuminating, very enjoyable. It brings peace, serenity, it's tranquility to your soul. It really you feel the shine, the light inside of you. Likewise, going to Al-Najaf al-Ashraf, going to Karbala, going to Kazmi, going to Samarra, Al-Mashhad al-Muqaddas. Hajj, Umrah, and Jiwar. And good neighborly living. Jiwar means what? Good, being a good neighbor, being a good citizen. That's your jihad. There's no jihad except worshiping the Lord and being a good neighbor, being a good part of the society, being kind to your neighbors, being kind. And in a hadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wasalam, your neighbor is not just the person next door. It's 40 houses. 40 houses to the left, 40 houses to the right, 40 houses in front of you, 40 houses behind you. So it's the society, basically. At that time, cities were not that big. So where you live, being kind to people, that's your jihad. Muhammad ibn Abdullah said to Imam Rida alayhi salatu wasalam, حدثني أبي عن أهل بيته عن آبائه أنه قال لبعضهم عليه السلام إن في بلادنا موضع رباط يقال له قزوين وعدوا يقال له الديلم فهل من جهاد أو هل من رباط. In the region where we live, there's an area that's called Kazmi. And there's a tribe there, an ethnicity, they're called Ad-Daylam. They are non-Muslims. They're non-Muslims. So is it permissible for us to engage in war against them, to plunder them, to attack them, to loot and bring bounties and bring women and so forth? أو هل من رباط, or just being sentries there, to be border guards. Not, we won't attack them, we'd just be border guards. We'd be part of the armed forces, but we will be sentries. So the Imam alayhi salam replied to him, عليكم بهذا البيت فحجوه. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam said, your obligation is to this house, Kaaba, to this house. Go for Hajj, perform Hajj. Go do ziyarah of Hajj. Go to the house of worship and worship God. That's your jihad. فعاد عليه الحديث فقال عليكم بهذا البيت فحجوه. That person repeated his question. No, we live in an area, there are other tribes, there are non-Muslims, right? There are towns, cities, regions, non-Muslims. We live at the border. Can we join the army so we be sentries? Or can we just raid them, engage in armed struggle, battles with them? To do jihad, Imam alayhi salam again replied the same thing. Go to the house of worship and worship God. That's your jihad. Imam alayhi salam then replied, أما يرضى أحدكم أن يكون في بيته ينفق على عياله من طوله ينتظر أمرنا. Why wouldn't you be content? Why wouldn't you be happy that you're not engaging in the exhaustion of jihad? You just live your life. Live your life in your house with your family and provide for the needs of your family from your income generously. أما يرضى أحدكم. Why you're not happy? أن يكون في بيته, that you live in your house with your family. ينفق على عياله من طوله, and from your income generously spend to take care of the needs of your family. Live your life. Just be a good father, be a good member of the family. And ينتظر أمرنا, and wait for the coming of the Messiah. Until that time, the coming of the Mahdi alayhi salam. Until that time, just wait. Don't engage in wars and battles and violence. فَإِنْ أَدْرَكَهُ كَانَ كَمَنْ شَهِدَ مَعَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ بَدْرًا. If you're fortunate that you see that time, that blessed, that luminous time when the Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam comes and Jesus Christ comes, so that will be like you are in the companionship of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that you are with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the battle of Badr. That would be, it would be so blessed, it would be so glorious, as if you are with the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Badr. فإن ماتا ينتظر أمرنا كان كمن كان مع قائمنا صلوات الله عليه هكذا في فصلاته جمع بين السبابتين ولا أقول هكذا وجمع بين السبابة والوسطى. And if he dies before that, so if you just live your life, being a good person, being good to your family and earning money and taking care of your needs, and just wait for when Al-Mahdi alayhi salam comes and Jesus Christ comes, and then you will, if they order to jihad, do jihad, you do jihad, right? But you wait for that time, and then you die, and you don't see that time, right? You will be with Imam al-Mahdi like this. You will be the same like Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, like this. And then he said, I don't mean like this, because one is longer than the other. You will be like this. You will be so close to him. It means your companionship is so intimate with Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salatu wassalam. Okay.